Fire one.
I'd like to talk about a tool that every comedian has but few actually use. This thing. While many discard the microphone as just a way to amplify the voice, it actually has a huge amount of potential to play with sound, volume, and perspective.
Mute this. But for real, what is it about?
In this video, we'll focus on one comedian who uses the mic better than almost anyone. Ron Howard lookalike and aggressive red howler monkey that's escaped from the zoo and is now desperately marking its territory. Bill Burr and his 2014 special, I'm Sorry You Feel That Way. And when I say using the mic, I'm not just talking about his podcast.
Bill, my name is Jessica. Holy shit, a lady!
Okay, let's go. Most comedians keep the mic in a set position, usually by their chin or by their chest. They won't move it around too much because they want the sound to be consistent and their voice to be consistently heard. Which makes sense, right? I mean, for most comedians, moving the mic around is completely counterintuitive. Which is not to say that other comedians don't use the mic in interesting ways. Some use it to provide emphasis.
He just walks in and just sheds it all. He just...
Or a sound effect. Noel Fielding did this.
You all had to read my thoughts.
What Burr does is slightly more fundamental. Firstly, he doesn't keep the mic in a set position at all. This is partly because he's constantly moving around acting things out.
Get that savage off my property! Get out of here!
But also because he knows he'll often sound funnier when his voice is more inconsistent. You'll notice that when Burr wants to appear calm or in control, he has control over the microphone. He speaks into the mic directly at a consistent volume. He may even keep the mic still for comic effect.
She makes them and then I'm supposed to sprinkle the sugar on them. I don't even think they taste that good, but it's just...
When Burr becomes more agitated, however, usually angry, scared, or frustrated, he will lose control of the mic. Burr will demonstrate this either by sliding the mic back and forth.
Turn around and see a 37-year-old mustachioed male going, woo, woo, woo!
Or moving the mic away from his voice.
Jesus Christ, when do you stop picking up your kids when they're like 5 or 6? Like, ah, get off of me, Jesus Christ! You're gonna throw out my back. I'll jump on your brother!
The sudden changes in Burr's vocals add a hilarious kind of chaos to his routines.
You gotta try to pick her up there. Use these muscles like, ah! Ah! Ah!
In this joke, for example, Burr is impersonating a politician campaigning to cull the human population to a more manageable size. Quickly note how he slips the mic into the stand to imply a political podium.
Coming out there, and if elected, I would implement a program to immediately eliminate at least 85% of you.
However, the joke only gets a big laugh when Burr does this.
This planet cannot sustain the sheer numbers. Let me finish.
By simply yelling this line away from the mic, Burr says everything you need to know about the situation he's acting in. You can almost see the pitchforks and torches beginning to appear around him.
Back! Back, please! Back! I warn you!
Right.
He doubles down on this a few moments later.
This will not be arbitrary. Under your seats is a multiple choice questionnaire. If you did not bring a pencil, you're already out.
In one motion, Burr leans forward and pulls the microphone away from his voice. I think for the same reason that the shot in The Simpsons robs Homer of all his power and authority, when Burr pulls the mic from his voice, it sounds like he's completely lost control of the situation. Instead, he sounds more distant, pathetic, and ridiculous, which makes his desperate displays of emotion even funnier.
How's your father's project coming along?
I think he's almost done. Yeah, he's done.
Burr uses the microphone in more elegant ways too. In this joke, Burr is talking about walking away from religion. After years of doubt and insecurity, he realizes he can either cling on to something he doesn't really believe in, or
Just let go of it like that creepy moment in curling, you know? You know that moment where the shooter, whatever you call him, is just sliding with that rock, right? Just, let me do this right, just slide. And you think he's along for the ride, the two of them, they're a team, and all of a sudden out of nowhere he just goes fucking...
At this point, the joke appears to be over. Burr steps back up, ready to walk away. But by simply being aware of what he's holding in his hand, Burr is able to return to the joke to add a final, compelling punchline.
I didn't read a riot act to anybody. I just let go of it. And on the third day, he rose again in fulfillment of the...
It's a really smart, simple use of the mic that's also a perfect metaphor. You can't help but laugh at the sheer relief on Burr's face as he watches all his religious doubts slowly drift away.
Better slide that time.
The best case of Burr's use of the microphone is his renowned helicopter joke. This is probably the best example of Burr combining every comedic talent he has, showcasing his warped perspective while demonstrating an uncanny ability to play with our own.
What is that? Shut the fuck up and get in! Throwing my scarf on. Right?
Basically, the joke takes place from two perspectives. One, a helicopter pilot who gives a guided tour to a passenger. The other, the passenger, who midway through the flight, leaps from the aircraft. Burr acts out this climactic moment from each character's perspective, the pilot's being first. Note how he uses the mic stand as the control stick of the helicopter, both to set the scene and also lay out the physical space inside the helicopter itself.
All right, if you look out the left side of the aircraft, that's Orange County. There's over 27 miles of beaches. Put your seatbelt back on. 27 miles of beaches. Was established as a county in 1903. Sir, please don't open the door. Sir, what are you doing? Sir, no, don't, stop, no! What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my God! Oh my God!
You get the idea. For the next part of the joke, Burr reveals the passenger was terminally ill, an older man who realized he couldn't be cured and decided to take his life back into his own hands.
Fuck you, disease. I decide. You know, ripping tubes out, gets a burger, shotguns a beer.
With this in mind, Burr switches perspective. He situates himself to the left of the mic stand, retaining the space he laid out in the first sequence. Brilliantly, however, instead of giving voice to the passenger, Burr repeats the speech of the pilot.
Over 27 miles of beaches, put your seatbelt back on.
Not only is the audience immediately aware of what Burr is doing, but we now hear the pilot's speech exactly as the passenger would have heard it. Only now, away from the microphone, the words of the pilot sound as quiet and irrelevant to us as they would have to the passenger himself.
Established as a county in 1903. Sir, please don't try to open the door. Don't!
Burr finishes the sequence by matching up the physical gestures he made from the pilot's perspective, before letting out a final chaotic scream, whipping the mic back and forth as the wind rushes up to meet him. Burr switches between these perspectives so effortlessly that you hardly notice how much time it would have taken to perfect. Of course, knowing Bill Burr, the joke doesn't quite end there.
I left out one small thing. There is one small thing. The guy fucking lived. Yeah.
But that's another video entirely. In many ways, the helicopter joke describes the two voices battling inside Burr's head. One is the sane, rational man who wants to follow the rules. The other is the absolute nutcase who wants to throw it all to the wind and leap into oblivion. It's really no wonder who Burr ends up siding with. What Burr hints at in this special is a similar relationship between balance and risk, to use the microphone as a genuine comic device instead of an oversized volume button. It's interesting to consider that most comedians' jokes would work regardless of whether they had a microphone or not. If Burr didn't have a microphone, a lot of his material wouldn't work at all.
It has a happy ending, though. He later died at the hospital. That's right. So here's to him. God bless him. I hope I have the balls someday.